Well, we're finally here. No more Flash Gordon. Now we're on Roger Taylor's Fun in Space album. Oh, was it Flash Gordon Fun in Space? Well, probably, but this is Roger Taylor's first track from Fun in Space, No Violins, next on Crown Jewels. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Crown Jewels here on the PLD Projects Network. I am your host, PLD. And this is the podcast where I'm taking you through the entirety of the Queen catalog and obviously now the solo catalog as well as this week's song, No Violins, track 1 from Fun in Space, Roger Taylor's album from 1981. He's the first person to release a solo effort at all when he did the single I Want to Testify back in 1977. And then he also is now the first band member to have a full album release. And it makes sense. It makes sense because, Freddie Mercury and Brian May basically took up most of the writing credits throughout the entirety of Queen albums. If you look back, Brian and Freddie would do about 8 of the tracks, 9 of the tracks, even 10 of the tracks. Roger and John might get 1 or 2. So Roger's kind of pent up. He has a lot of material in the vault, and he's been building up to release his own album. And so he finally decided to do so, to step out and step in front. So let's get right to it. Roger, he's got a very different sound than Queen. We're not used to his sound because we only have those 1 or 2 tracks. I mean, it's not like his tracks on the solo album sound much different from his own solo tracks in Queen, or his own Queen tracks rather. But I guess because we don't hear him as much, hearing like a whole album worth of material definitely stands out from the regular Queen stuff. You're going to find later on that Brian's solo stuff sounds pretty Queenish, and Freddie's solo stuff sounds Queenish in a way as well, a little different here and there, but Rogers is probably the least Queenish sounding album. I think so anyway, but your miles may vary on that particular argument. So let's get into the first track, No Violins. We're going to listen to it. Well, you're going to listen to it. If you look in the show notes, you'll see a Google Doc. On that Google Doc will be a link to a YouTube version of the song. You're going to click on that link and listen to it while you pause me. And after you're done listening to it, come back and you'll hear what I have to say about it. So let's do that now. I'll be right here waiting for you.
We were talking about the old times.
And there you have it. Usually I give the notes and quotes beforehand, but for whatever reason I decided to change it up a little. Honestly, I don't have many notes or quotes. Let's get right into those notes and quotes. The notes written by Roger Taylor. Musicians, Roger Taylor on vocals, guitars, bass, drums, keyboards, and David Richards also on keyboards. That's right, pretty much this, like most of the other tracks on this album, is a true Roger Taylor solo effort. Basically, David Richards did 50% of the keyboards, and everything else was Roger Taylor. That's kind of cool to me. I like to see like someone's going to really break out and break free and have a chance to be on his own. He really wanted to be on his own. This is a really strong opener, I think. It's a really strong opener of an album. It sounds, again, like much different from Queen. He has a real rhythmic way he plays guitar. There's not a whole lot of lead guitar in this track. He does play lead, but he's definitely not Brian May, as he's not going to be doing more of this like complete noodling tracks. But he plays guitar that suits the song very well. Very crunchy riff, very riff rhyme kind of thing. But it's really kind of cool, catchy beat. It's lyrically actually pretty clever. That's not something I usually say about Roger. He's kind of really hit or miss. He has some lyrics that are really great, but a lot of his lyrics go really out in bizarre directions, and sometimes very cheesy, sometimes very like we're finding a rhyme just because we need a rhyme. There's some of that in this song too, calling him the Jack the Lad part. That's a little weird, but I do love the play in terms between no violence and no violins. It's kind of a sound like I don't know what that's called. There's a term for it. I'm not an English major. I don't know, but there is a term for it. I do like that wordplay, so that's kind of cool. I love his vocal track on this. It has a nice little easygoing moment, but then it gets to that kind of gruff and rockin' moment when it starts crunching away as well. I do love there's a piano keyboard plunking that kind of goes up and down the scales during the verses, and you can tell, I mentioned kind of as a joke, we went from Flash Gordon to Fun in Space, but Flash Gordon does definitely influence Fun in Space in some ways, especially with the keyboards. Obviously, the no keyboards thing that Queen used to do for a long time is out the window here. Roger actually made a joke on the liner notes of the album saying something like 157 synthesizers instead of saying no synths like it had for a long time. But there's definitely some sci-fi kind of keyboard, droney kind of stuff going on. Little playful sci-fi sounds that definitely permeate through this song as well. And the ending gets, as the song trails off and kind of fades out, it gets more thicker sounding. I feel like it's got a more of a layered sound, which is kind of cool. And there's definitely some more of that flash chord influence. Gets a little heavy at the end there, but all in all, it's a good, solid opening track for the album, showcasing what Roger's going to have in store for you. Now, if you're a long-time listener, you know that this is the point where I tell you to listen to the next version so we can determine which is the titular crown jewel or best version of the song to put into our ultimate playlist. Unfortunately, this is the only version we have, so by default, it is the titular crown jewel. That's unfortunately the case for a lot of this album. There's not a whole lot of different. Roger didn't tour any type of solo tour until 1987 with his side band The Cross, and then they did mostly the Cross material. So only a few of his solo tracks from his first two albums. He finally toured solo on his own in 1994, but then again at that point he was concentrating more on that album and some of the Queen tracks that he did. So these albums don't get a lot of live play, so I don't have those alternate tracks there. I don't have single track for this or any kind of edit or demo, unfortunately. That's all we have. So by default, like I said, the crown jewel is the album version of No Violins. So that leads me to rating the track, because that's the last thing we do on the soundtrack, or on the podcast rather, on a scale of 1 to 11, because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects. I'm going to give this song a solid 7. I think there's better songs on the album. I think there's more in-depth songs on the album. I do think this is a good, solid album track, though. I actually like it better than some of his Queen input from the past few years. I mean, songs like Rocket I rate higher, but I do rate this, at least higher than Coming Soon or Fun It from Jazz or something like that. It does seem like it's a nice, solid opening, like I said. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think of this track, and what do you rate it on a scale of 1 to 11? And then when you're done letting me know, hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're listening to an audio side of things, leave us a review. It'll help us out, help us fighting this evil algorithm. If you want to join a patreon.com/PLD project, you can help us out even further. And you get early versions of this. You get early access to these podcast episodes. I tend to do them pretty early on. I tend to do them in bulk, so you get like 4 or 5 at a time potentially, well before they're released on the main as it is. But if not, I get it. I totally understand, man. The times are definitely tough. But hopefully you enjoyed the first track on Roger Taylor's album, No Violins. Next week we'll talk about the second track, a little more of a ballad from Roger, Laugh or Cry. I like that one a lot, though, so stay tuned for that one for sure. Well, I'll see you next week, folks. Take care. And I did hear No Violins. Or maybe I did hear violins. I did not hear no, but I'll see you.